Ayan. Okay. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, um, okay, let's start. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our class, Research Design and Methodology. So, before we proceed with our discussion this morning, wherein our topic today is about um, how do we protect our research. And the title of the research is the title of the topic is about armoring the research design, the systemic defenses against artifact bias and invalidity. Invalidity. Okay, so before we proceed, let's discuss first, in summary, what we have discussed in the previous week. So last time we discussed about designing our research. Uh, we talk about the step-by-step schematics for planning and structuring valid scientific studies. And we were able to discuss the different points on how we can start with our research, particularly in acquiring our research concept. Our research concept could be a personal interest, it could be a previous research, or a problem that we want to solve. No? Wherein we want to identify a real world issue in need of change or improvement. And we do that by surveying, uh, by way of reviewing the literature, wherein we want to become familiar with existing literature so that we can prevent duplicating efforts, no? And we usually read articles, journals, conference papers, or books, and we are following the um, scientific method of research by way of testing whether our problem meets the criteria. And what is the criteria? Kasi ang isang research problem, it should pass the litmus test, no? When we talk about the research problem test, it has an idea whether it has a relationship between two or more variables, and then the research problem a should be taken in a form of a question, and it should be capable of being tested, no, empirically or scientifically. It can be observed through observation or experimentation. So yun yung litmus test ng pagde-design, pagka-come up ng research problem. So we discussed those things last time, no, including um, the common uh, sources kung saan natin kinukuha yung mga data at saka yung mga participants ng research natin, if there are, no? Kasi kung experimental yung research natin, probably wala tayong participants, no? We can just for example, we can just experiment on a prototype and we test the prototype's functionality. That's probably a research na, no? Like in the undergrad courses, yung mga thesis nyo, you evaluate your experiments, your research through those things. And of course, iba naman yung research na merong mga participants, no? Like for example, sa mga ibang programs, no? Like College of Arts, social sciences, no? They usually do research na merong mga participants, no? And currently, sa National University, medyo maselan, no? Kapag involve ang mga participants like merong participants ng human. No? Kasi kailangan pang dumaan yan sa ethics board. No? Meron na tayong committee, tinatawag siyang Research Ethics Office, na doon kailangan dumaan muna yung mga research. No? Because it has to follow strict protocol, no? Research protocol pertaining to ethics. No? Kasi pwedeng ma-violate natin yung mga ethics protocol kapag hindi tayo dumaan doon sa ethics board, no? So kailangan ng permission at validation ng ethics board, no? So that the 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 research na kino-conduct, no, ay hindi ma-violate yung mga rules and regulations of research. So of course, ethically dapat sound yung ating principle. Now, that includes not only humans but as well as animals, no? Kaya kapag halimbawa dun sa mga medical science, no, sa NU may mga medical science tayo, no? They will experiment on mouse or any other pets, no? Like last time merong project yung isang researcher natin, the project is about fish, no? So although hindi naman niya hahawakan yung fish, but the project itself contains fish, tilapia fish in particular. So kinailangan pa rin siyang dumaan sa ethical review. So ganun talaga, no? So para maiwasan natin yung violations, kailangan magdaan siya sa ethical reviews. So diniscuss natin last time yung mga yan, no? So how do we source our participants, no? Pinanggit natin yung population versus sample. And then binanggit din natin last time yung random selection. How do we randomly select our participants, no? And how do we randomly assign, no, our experiment, no? How do we group people in our experiment, whether in an experimental group versus the control group. We also discuss different considerations, no? Like for example, yung context ng multicultural, diniscuss natin last time, no? Kasi sa pagre-research, meron tayong tinatawag na consideration diyan, no? Meron tayong cultural, racial, at saka socio-economic, no? So fundamental realities yan na kailangan nating harapin, no? So hindi lahat ng in-experiment natin ay kaparehas ng iniisip natin, no, and experiences. So for example, you have subjects or people, no, na kailangan mong i-invite for your experiment or your research, iba yung kanilang culture. So you have to study and consider about that, no? So yun yung diniscuss natin last time. But for today, hindi pa tayo nadadagdagan, 4 pa rin tayo. So for today, the topic is about how researchers protect their studies from errors, no? Kasi sa research, it's not only simply collecting data, no? That means research is not enough for us to collect our data, no? If the study is poorly designed, yung research natin could be misleading, no? Regardless of how much data we collect, no? Kahit gaano karami yung data na kinolect natin. So think of it na yung research is like constructing a building, no? Yan, may mga engineers sa inyo dito, civil engineers, no? You're constructing a building, and then before you build the walls, as an engineer, you have to ensure that the foundation first is strong, di ba? Similarly, before collecting your data, the researcher must build a strong research design. No, kailangan yung design natin, yung research design natin, strong din ang foundation. No? So that it could prevent bias, artifacts. So we will be discussing that later. No? What are artifacts, what are bias, and of course, invalid conclusions. No? So maganda nga yung experiment mo, maganda yung research mo, pero invalid naman yung conclusion mo. So napansin nyo, yung title ng ating topic is about armoring, no? Armoring, ano ba ibig sabihin ng armoring, no? So, ang ibig sabihin niyan, it comes from the word armor, no? So, our topic uses the word armoring because a good research design, no, acts like an armor. It should be an armor, no? It should be something that protect our study from anything that could weaken our conclusion. So ang pinoprotektahan natin dito, hindi yung mismong research, kundi yung conclusion na makukuha natin from the experiment or from the research na ginagawa natin. So napansin nyo rito, mayroon 3 terms na very important throughout the lesson. We will be discussing that. The first one is the artifact. So what is artifact? Artifact, pag sinabi nating artifact, these are any unexpected influence that create false results. So artifact yun, no? Bias, siyempre alam na natin yung bias, di ba? Yan yung mga systematic error that pushes the result in one direction. Bias nga di ba? So in one direction only. And validity means it's the degree to which our conclusions are actually true. So how valid our conclusion is. So the goal of today's lesson is to understand how we as researchers build the multiple layers of protection so that they or we can confidently say our findings are accurate. No? So paano natin gagawin yan, no? So, yan yung i-discuss natin today. So, parang ganito yan. Imagine na you are testing a newly designed, let's say, solar-powered street light. No? May project ka. Maglalagay ka ng solar-powered na street light. No? So, pagkatapos ng installation, the lights work better than the old ones. No? So, ano ba yung old ones? Electric pa yung nagpapagana. No? Pero napansin mo, after installing the solar-powered street light, the lights work better than the old ones, no? The question is, can you immediately conclude that your design is better? No? The answer is not necessarily. Maybe, marami kasing background, no? Pwedeng ang ibig sabihin the weather was sunnier or was better. O kaya yung battery ay newer, bago, no, kaysa sa dati. And the installation team was more experienced than the old ones, no? So that means there are possible artifacts or sources of bias, no, na pwede mong sabihin na mas maganda yung ginawa mong design ngayon o yung paglalagay mo ng solar-powered lights. No? So that means a good research or study removes alternative explanations. So ibig sabihin, dapat pag nagre-research tayo, dapat kumbaga dekahon yung conclusion na gagawin natin. Free from artifact, free from bias, and free from invalid conclusion. Okay? So, in slide number 2, yan, the primary purpose of research design is to engineer valid conclusion from contaminated environment. So, ibig sabihin yan, the main purpose of the research design is to produce valid conclusions. So, it means when we conduct research, we should ask a question. No? Kailangan may question ka. For example, ano ba pwede natin ibigay na example? Ito, katulad nitong ginagawa natin, online learning, no? Does online learning improve students, let's say, programming skills? Kasi computer engineer ako so programming skills, no? Now, if our research is poorly designed, we may conclude yes, no? Even though other factors actually caused the improvement, no? However, here, makikita natin there are two opposing ideas, no? Na involved sa ating presentation. Number one is the threat and the other one is the goal. No? Ano ba yung threat? No, it consists of the artifact and the bias, no? Ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng artifact and bias? No, we already mentioned that a while ago. Pero ang ibig sabihin ng artifacts, ito yung mga unwanted influences into our study. No? Ito yung mga pwedeng maging impluwensya doon sa ating research, sa ating inaaral, no? For example, no? Ang example ng mga artifacts and biases are yung mga participant differences. There are participants in our research, iba-iba yung mga yan, di ba? Variable yan no? So, pwedeng maging artifacts and bias yung participant differences. Pwede ring ang maging dahilan ay halimbawa marami kayong researcher, no? Isang grupo kayo. Bawat isa merong kani-kanyang expectation yan. So that means pwedeng kasama sa artifact and bias yung mga expectations coming from individual researchers. Ito pa, no? Pwedeng maging artifact and bias din at maging threat sa research natin yung environmental conditions, no? Katulad ngayon, masama ang panahon, no? Kailan mo ba ginawa yung research mo? Yung design mo? Kailan mo ginawa yung study mo? Maayos ba yung panahon? O kaya is the weather good, no? Or better? So pwedeng maging factor ng pagkakaroon ng artifact and biases yung environmental conditions, no? Sa experiment naman, pwedeng ang maging artifact and bias yung measurement errors, no? So yung pagkakaroon ng error sa mga metrics o pagsusukat, no? Halimbawa, meron kang susukating lupa, may susukating kang device, no? Meron kang value na kailangan mong makuha pero may mga error. So pwede niyang ma-distort yung reality, no? Yung totoo na pwedeng mangyari. On the other hand, yung isa pang opposing idea natin is the goal, no? Ang goal natin is validity. Ibig sabihin, ito yung conclusion natin na accurate yung representation niya kung ano talaga yung nangyayari sa real world, no? A valid study answers the research questions correctly. No? So, yun yung pwede nating makita dito sa dalawang opposing views na ito. Pertaining to that, no? So, for example, suppose there are two classrooms, no? Meron dalawang classroom. And sa isang classroom, at doon sa isang classroom, they are using different teaching methods. No? Hindi naman lahat ng teacher pare-pares ang teaching style, di ba? Iba-iba ng teaching style ng mga professors. And you should not compare them. Pero sometimes we compare our teachers. Di ba? Kahit naman ako nung nag-aaral ako, I compare my teachers kung paano magturo si ganitong teacher, si ganitong professor, ganyan. Okay, anyway. Let's say, in class letter A, mas mataas yung nakukuha nilang score. Pwede ba natin i-conclude na yung teaching method ng Class A is better? Ano sa tingin niyo? Pwede ba natin i-conclude yun? Kung ba mataas ang nakukuha nilang score ay mas better na yung teaching method ng kabila kaysa doon sa, kasi Class B, no? Mas mababa yung score. Ano sa tingin niyo? Ayan, sagot ni Samantha, no. And that is correct, no? We cannot conclude that the teaching method of Class A, kung nakakakuha ng mataas na score doon, is better. Perhaps, siguro sa Class A, no, ito kasi yung mga reason eh. Sa Class A, yung mga students doon, matataas talaga ang IQ, no? Mas matalino sila. O kaya, marami silang resources doon. Mas maganda yung internet connection nila doon, no? And Class A had more study time than Class B. No, for example, si Class B, kaya ganun yung performance nila dahil mas matindi yung schedule nila. No? Mas hectic yung schedule nila. So unless these variables are controlled, no, we cannot confidently say that the teaching method caused the improvement. No? Hindi yung teaching method. Although nakaka-impluwensya talaga sa score ng bata yung teaching method, pero hindi right away we can say that yun talaga yung reason, no? So kailangan makontrol daw natin siya. So yun ang example dito sa slide natin na to. Yung valid conclusion ay minsan nakakontaminate yan ng mga environments. So kailangan alamin natin yung mga threats like the artifact and the bias para ma-achieve natin yung ating goal, which is the validity of the conclusion. Okay? So yun ang ibig sabihin nun. Now, in slide number 3, makikita nyo rito saan nanggagaling yung mga sources of artifact and biases. So aralin natin, no? Aralin natin yan. Kailangan maintindihan natin mabuti to, no? As a researcher. Nung kayo ay nasa undergrad, maring hindi nyo masyadong nabibigyan ng pansin ito. No? Kasi meron kayong mga thesis o capstone na dinidesign, nakafocus lang kayo doon. No? Pero you are not aware, sometimes you're not aware of the sources of artifacts and bias na pwedeng maka-apekto dun sa inyong study. No? Kasi ang bias can come from any sources or many sources. Pero pwede nating sabihin na they can fall in 3 categories. Nakikita natin dyan, ito yung 3 categories. No? The experimenter. Second one is the participant. No? And the third one are the extraneous variables. So aralin natin ano yung mga ibig sabihin nitong mga to. So experimenter. So nakikita nyo rito ang daming mga nakalagay dyan na mga theoretical considerations, no? Or mga theories regarding the experimenter. Number 1 is the Rosendahl effect. Meron pa siyang tinutukoy na Pygmalion effect. Meron pa siyang tinutukoy na Hawthorne effect. Marami yan, no? May mga effect na ganyan. Pero for us to be able to understand, una, para mas madali niyong maintindihan yung concept ng experimenter as a source of bias. No? Kasi 3 yung kategoring nakalagay dyan sa slide. Una, bilang researcher, tandaan natin, lahat ng researchers are human. No? May nakita na ba kayong researcher hayop? Ang hayop, usually subject sila ng research. Pero hindi mo makikita kahit saan na ang hayop or animals, they are running the experiment. They are running the research. No? So, ibig sabihin, researchers are human. And even without realizing it, pwede niyang ma-influence yung participants. Di ba? Pwedeng ma-influence ng humans yung participants, whether it's also a human or an animal, no? Animal subject, no? Pwedeng makaapekto yan yung humans, no? For example, ikaw yung researcher. May dalawang grupo. Yung isang grupo, madalas mas marami kang ngiti. Oh, yun lang ang smile, ha? Smile lang yun, ha? You're smiling more at one group than the other group mo. Siguro mayroong maganda ron, no? Kaya may pogi, no? Kaya mas marami kang binibigay ng ngiti. So, yun ang ibig sabihin nun, no? Pwedeng makaapekto. Yung palang pagngiti yun, ha? Nakaka-influence na siya sa mga participants. Pwedeng halimbawa do sa kabilang grupo, mas may binibigay ka ng mga additional na hints, no? Ganun yun eh, di ba? Pwedeng sa kabilang grupo, you are changing the tone of your voice, no? Mas mababa yung voice mo dito kaysa dito. Pagdating dito, ang taas-taas ng tono ng boses mo. So magkaiba na kaagad yun, no? Magkaiba na kaagad ang influence nun. Mababang boses at mataas na tono ng boses. And then when they are asking questions, magkaiba yung pag-i-interpret mo ng answers dun sa mga questions nila. No? Iba yung answer mo dito, although parehas yung question nila, iba yung answer mo sa kabilang grupo kaysa sa kabilang grupo. Di ba? So, ibig sabihin nun, tao kasi tayo. We are humans and we influence our participants, no? Usually, we influence our participants doon pa lang sa mga gestures natin, no? Pagdating naman sa participants, no? Yung participants, they can also affect the research. So nakita nyo rito yung mga Hawthorne effect na yan, volunteer skew and demand characteristics and subject roles. Okay? So yan yung mga nakalagay dyan na examples, no? Pero totoo naman din, no, na pwedeng ang participants ay makaapekto rin doon sa ating research, no? Kasi pwedeng halimbawa si participant, pwede niyang hulaan yung purpose ng study. No? Pwede niyang hulaan, no? Pwede niyang i-guess yung purpose of the study. Pwede niyang tulungan yung researcher o hindi, di ba? At pwede siyang, alam niyo yung tipo na intentionally they can behave differently doon sa purpose ng research mo. So that means the behavior of the participants can change, no, because they know that they are being observed. Alam nila na inobserbahan sila, no? So pwedeng magbago 'yun. No, lalo na kung matalino yung participants tapos inaaral yung kanyang behavior, medyo mahirap, no? Kasi nakakaapekto talaga 'yun sa validity ng experiment o ng study. Okay? The third one is the RD extraneous variables, no? So ano ba yung mga extraneous variables na 'yan? So these are variables that are not part of the study. Hindi siya experimenter, hindi din siya participant, pero nakakaapekto siya sa resulta. No? Halimbawa, ayan, ang halimbawa niya, yung nakikita nyo rito yung the heterogeneity of the participants, the environmental factors, and the measurement and reliability. No? Example niyan yung mga room temperature, background noise, no? Yung age, yung gender, yung experience, yung equipment quality. Yan, yung mga measuring devices kasama yan. So, yung mga researchers, katulad natin, halimbawa researcher tayo, we try to eliminate or control these variables. It's either i-eliminate mo yung mga variable na yan or makontrol mo siya. Okay? Kasi pag hindi mo na-control, pwedeng maging source ng artifact and bias yung mga bagay na yan, including the experimenter, the participant, at yung mga extraneous variable. No? Bibigyan ko kayo ng isang practical example. No? Suppose, magbibigay ako ng computer engineering students, halimbawa. Yung dalawang students, no, they are testing, hindi dalawang student, isang klase. And they are grouped into two. No? And they are testing two artificial intelligence models. No? Si Model A, it performs better. However, itong Model A na ito is run using RTX, let's say 5090 GPU. Mataas yun, no? RTX is running on an RTX, Model A is running on an RTX 5090 GPU. Si Model B, medyo luma, no? GTX 1060 lang sa example, no? So the difference in that is the hardware, no? Not the AI model. Maring parehas ng AI yung model nila, pero if they are running on a different hardware platform, like magkaiba sila ng GPU, no? They may explain the difference between the two artificial intelligence model, no? So ang ibig sabihin natin dito, the GPU becomes an extraneous variable. No, kasi magkaiba talaga, nakaka-impluwensya talaga kung magkaibang device ang gagamitin mo to run the AI model. No? Yung isa bagong modelo. Yung isa luma yung gagamitin mo. Makaka-apekto talaga yan. Okay? So that's an example of extraneous variable. Okay? Now let's proceed with this slide, no? So in this slide, one of the most common threats to validity is experimenter bias. So ito yung isa sa mga dapat nating maiwasan. Yung tayo to, no? Yung tayong nag-experiment eh. So minsan tayo ay bias. No? Experimenter bias function as a self-fulfilling prophecy unconsciously steering the reality to match the hypothesis. So, nangyayari yan when the researcher unintentionally influence the participants, no? So, pwede kasing mangyari yon na hindi mo sinasadya, pero nai-influensyahan mo yung mga participants mo, no? So, pansinin niyo tong cycle na pinapakita sa diagram na to. First, anong una nating makikita rito? Si researcher, no? Nag-e-expect siya ng certain outcome, no? Specific outcome. Ito yung number 1 natin. Okay? So nakikita natin meron siyang expectation, no? And because of this expectation, the researcher unconsciously gave subtle behavioral clues or cues, no? Nakikita nyo rito. Nagbibigay siya ng mga subtle behavioral cues. So dito, binabanggit dito, unintentionally changes in body language, tone, or interaction. So pwedeng ngumingiti siya o kaya tumatango, no? Or pag nagsasalita siya, very warm. No? Maayos siyang nagsasalita. No? O kaya nagpo-provide siya ng additional explanation. No? So, yung mga participants, they will notice these signals. Kahit 'di ba tayo mga estudyante, kapag si teacher laging um, nagbibigay ng mga plus points. So signal 'yon sa mga estudyante na, uy, si sir, si ma'am, 'di ba? Ano ang nakikita nyo kay sir at saka kay ma'am, no? Teka lang, wait lang, meron akong message na natanggap. Mhm. Okay. It's about the work from home arrangement. Kasi we are working from home today, no, because of the announcement. Nasa bahay ako, although we have to do the class. Now, anyway, I will just continue with the discussion. Ano yun dinidiscuss natin? Yun nga, no? Yung binibigay ko example, kahit tayo mga students, no? Mapapansin natin kapag si teacher lagi nagbibigay ng plus points, na magaling siyang makisama sa atin, laging nakangiti, hindi nagagalit, no? So, it will provide signals, no? And mapapansin nyo, yung mga students, they will change their behavior towards their teacher, no? Compared to other teachers na walang plus points. Minsan nga, yung ibang teacher na hindi nagbibigay ng plus, galit ka di ba? Kinatatamaran mong pasukan. So doon pa lang yun, sa pagpasok pa lang yun, no? Now, ganun din sa ating study or sa ating research, no? When your participants, no, notices your signals, no, without realizing it, you can change their behavior as well, no? Kung ikaw yung experimenter, pwede mong mabago yung outcome ng experiment mo kasi naaapektuhan yung participants mo ng iyong mga behavioral cues, no, kung tawagin yan, no? So yung collected data mo ngayon, nagko-collect ka ng data, pwede natin sabihin na lalong magiging bias yan sa original expectation. Ano ba ang original expectation? Yan yung umpisa, no? Yung hypothesis ng researcher. Yun yung expectation niya sa specific outcome, no? Kaya nakikita nyo rito, itong cycle na ito, ang tawag dito ay self-fulfilling prophecy. Ang totoo, hindi naman sinadya nung researcher na mandaya. Hindi naman niya sinasadyang mandaya, no? Pero yung expectation are influenced, no? Naiimpluwensyahan siya. Okay? Naiimpluwensyahan siya. Magbigay tayo ng isa pang example. Okay? Imagine a teacher is testing a new mathematics application. Kunyari, may bagong mathematics application. No? So, si teacher believes that the app works. No? So, whenever the students use the app, no, ang ginagawa ni teacher, kapag ginagamit ng mga estudyante yung app, tapos yung answer ng mga bata ay incorrect, no? Ang ginagawa ni teacher, nagbibigay siya ng extra hint ng sagot. No? Kasi napansin niya, pag ginagamit nila yung app, mali yung sagot nila. So ang ginagawa ni teacher, tinutulungan niya yung mga estudyante. Hindi naman niya binibigay yung sagot, kundi nagbibigay siya ng hint, no, doon sa answer. So students without the app receive no hint. Pag hindi gumagamit ng app, mathematics app yung mga bata, wala silang natatanggap na hint. In the end, yung mga gumagamit ng app, nakakakuha ng mataas na score. On the other hand, yung grupo na walang ginagamit na app, mas mababa yung score nila. Now, the question is, bakit yung kabilang grupo ay nakakakuha ng mataas na score yung mga gumagamit ng app? Was it because of the app or because the teacher unconsciously helped them? So that is the purpose of this. No? Kaya nakita natin tong cycle na to na ang tawag nga natin ay self-fulfilling prophecy. Na yung researcher's hypothesis o expectation will come into reality because unintentionally si researcher nakapagbibigay siya ng signal para ma-fulfill yung specific outcome. No? So yan yung tinutukoy natin dyan. Okay? Now, pag-aralan natin to, no? Itong tinatawag na standardization and automation. No? So nakalagay dyan sa ating slide, structural consistency strips the researcher's subconscious influence from the experimental environment. No, ang ibig sabihin, paano natin tatanggalin, di ba kanina sabi natin, pwedeng yung researcher, ma-influence niya ang mga participants. No? Ito ngayon tayo. Gusto nating alisin yung impluensya ng researcher. But how do we remove the researcher influence? So meron daw dalawang strategy. Standardization and the other one is automation. So ang ibig sabihin ng standardization, every participant receives exactly the same experience. No? Yung example ko kasi sa inyo kanina, napansin nyo, may group A, may group B. Si group A, maganda ang treatment ni researcher. Sa group B, medyo hindi maganda. Kaya siyempre, mas maganda yung epekto doon sa unang grupo. No? So, but this time, para daw ma-prevent yung influence ng researcher, kailangan daw ay parehas na experience ang iparanas natin sa kanila. So, kailangan lahat ay identical. No? So ano-ano yung mga pwedeng maging identical? Dapat pare-parehas ang instructions, no? Yung instruction sa group A will be the instruction sa group B. Dapat pare-parehas ang timing, no? Ibig sabihin kung umaga mo binigay yung instructions o yung experiment doon sa group A, dapat umaga mo rin ibibigay sa group B. Dapat parehas din ang environment, no? Dapat parehas din ang equipment. Yung example natin kanina, no? Yung isa may mathematics app, yung isang grupo wala. Siyempre, may epekto 'yon. So dapat parehas din ang equipment. At parehas din ang tanong o questionnaires na ibibigay natin. Kaya nga standardize no? So yun ang ibig sabihin ng standardize. Ma-ensure natin yung fairness. Now, ano naman yung automation? So, ang ibig sabihin ng automation, we remove the human participation entirely, no? Ibig sabihin, instead of humans, hayaan natin siguro ang magbigay ng instruction ay computer, no? Computers will deliver instructions, computers will record the responses, and computers will calculate the results. So, since computers treat everyone the same, di ba? Kasi hindi siya tao. So, that way, nami-minimize natin yung bias. So, parang ganito yan, no? Instead of a teacher reading the exam instructions, ang gagawin ni teacher, the students will watch the same recorded video. So, magpapalabas si teacher ng recorded video. So, everyone receives identical information. So, no one receives extra explanation. No? Yun yung pwede natin gawin dyan. Another example, instead of manually measuring sensor values, no? Kunyari, nagme-measure tayo ng values ng sensor natin. No? hayaan mong yung pwede kang gumamit ng mga microprocessor like Arduino, no, na will automatically record temperature every second, no? Because automation removes recording errors. Pag inautomate mo yung sensor at kumukolekta siya ng data, no, mape-prevent mo yung human bias o human error na tinatawag. So nakuha na natin, paano natin i-remove yung experimenter? Pwede daw dalawa yan, no? Standardization at saka automation. So far, meron ba kayong questions sa ating dinidiscuss? Or any reaction or any additional explanation? So I do not mind if you have some additional explanation about this topic na dinidiscuss po natin. So right now siguro walang question, so no comments and no additional explanation, so we will just continue. Okay, so let's continue with this. So in this slide, you will see a table. No? So ang tawag natin dito ay blinding protocols. No? And accordingly, blinding protocols dictate the precise flow of information to neutralize anticipation effects. So anong ibig sabihin nito? Blinding prevents expectations from influencing behavior. So ang ibig sabihin, blinding, yung pagtatakip ng mata, no? Like in the statue of justice, no? May piring yung mata niya to prevent bias. May hawak siyang scale, di ba? So balanse. To prevent from being influenced, no? So may mga techniques tayong makikita rito. Yan yung mga levels of blinding, no? To protect against different types of biases. So may single blind, may double blind, at meron din namang partial blind. So dito sa single blind, ang ibig sabihin nito, yung mga participants, no? Ang participants dito, they do not know which treatment they received. No? Ang nakakaalam ng treatment ay si researcher lang. No? Si researcher lang, no? Single blind no? Single blind siya. Okay. No? This is very useful when participant expectations are the main concern. Mahirap bang gawin ito? Sabi, difficult. Moderate lang naman siya, no? Moderate na gawin, no? Hindi siya masyadong mahirap kung single blind. Ano naman yung double blind, no? Yung double blind, neither the participant and the researcher know, no? Parehas hindi nila alam. Kaya nga tinatawag yan na double blind. And this is considered to be the gold standard. No? Walang alam si participant, wala ring alam si researcher, no? So walang experimenter bias at wala ding epekto yan sa participants. Kaya lang, medyo mahirap daw gawin ito, no? Kasi it requires third-party data manager. So kailangan mo ng third party para gawin ito, no? So it protects against both researcher bias and participant bias. But this is the gold standard, no? Itong inutukoy na double blind na ito. Yun namang partial blind, researchers temporarily do not know, no, the important information until after the collection of the data. So sa umpisa hindi niya alam, pero nung nakolekta niya na yung data, doon pa lang niya malalaman. So this prevents unconscious influence during the interaction. So halimbawa, you allow the researcher to collect the data, pero hindi mo sinasabi sa kanya kung para saan yun. Yun ang mga example nun. Okay? So magbigay tayo ng practical example. Suppose researchers compare two headache medicines, no? Gamot sa sakit sa ulo. Si medicine A or A placebo. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng placebo? Gamot siya, pero walang epekto kung inumin mo o hindi. Kahit inumin mo siya, walang epekto. Magkamukha silang gamot, no? Ngayon, if patients know they receive the real medicine, they may feel better because they simply know that they expect to get well with that medicine, di ba? Hindi nila alam, yung isang gamot ay hindi naman totoong gamot. Placebo nga lang, di ba? No? So, kung hindi nila alam kung alin doon yung totoong gamot at yung hindi totoong gamot, no, kahit anong gamot ang inumin nila doon, they will expect improvement from that medicine. So that means blinding removes the expectation na merong peke at merong hindi because you allow them to experience both the medicine. So yun yung mga examples ng how do we remove the biases, no? Puntahan naman natin yung participants, no? Kanina ito yung mga nakalagay diyan, yung mga Hawthorne effect, no? Pag-aralan natin yan, yung Hawthorne effect na yan. Okay? Participants are not passive data points. Sabi diyan, no? They are active, calculating variables influenced by the Hawthorne effect, no? Tandaan natin yung mga participants, gaya ng experimenters, they are also active thinkers. Tao din yan eh, di ba? Kunyari tao yung participants mo. No? They constantly interpret what is happening. Ano nangyayari. So ini-interpret nila yan. And one common phenomenon is the Hawthorne effect. No? So ano ba yung tinatawag na Hawthorne effect. Okay? So, ang ibig sabihin ng Hawthorne effect, ito yung tendency of people to change their behavior because they know they are being observed or studied. Diba? Parang bata. Sige. Pag ang bata umiiyak, may mga experiment na ganyan eh. Halimbawa, sinama mo sa mall yung bata. Napansin ng bata, pag umiiyak siya, may gusto siya, tapos sinabi mo, ay hindi pwede kasi hindi tayo makakabili niyan, iiyak. Tapos pag umiyak, bibilhan mo na. So napansin ng bata, kapag ka siya umiiyak, nasusunod ang gusto niya. So sa tuwing iiyak siya, alam niya na sinusunod mo ang gusto niya. Ang tawag doon, Hawthorne effect. Anong ibig sabihin ng Hawthorne effect? Yung participants na figure out niya yung nangyayari. No? Nararamdaman niya na siya ay ino-observe, kaya pwede niyang baguhin yung kanyang attitude towards that. So na-guess niyo? So yun yung yung epekto ng Hawthorne effect. Kasi people often perform differently, no, simply because they know they are being observed, no? And sometimes people alam nilang in-experiment sila kaya nagbabago yung kanilang pananaw, no? So makikita nyo rito, meron tayong iba't ibang klase ng participant, no? Merong mga participant na kung tawagin natin ay good participant. Ano ibig sabihin ng good participant? Ngayon yung mga roles na nakalagay dito sa right side, no? Pag sinabi nating good or faithful subject, they overcomplies to help the researcher. No, ibig sabihin, they try too hard to help. No? However, ang problema sa ganito, pwede nilang ma-exaggerate yung positive results. Kasi masyado nilang natulungan yung experimental, no? Meron din naman tayong negative subject. Anong ibig sabihin ng negative participant? Ito naman yung mga intentionally dinidisrupt nila or ino-oppose nila yung hypothesis, no? Halimbawa, they purposely disagrees with instruction. Ayaw nilang sundin yung instruction. Yan naman yung mga negative. Na pwede rin magkaroon ng negative effect doon sa conclusion, no? At meron din tayong apprehensive subject. So, ang ibig sabihin ng apprehensive, ito yung mga nininervyos sila, no? Hindi sila kalmado, no? And their anxiety can change the performance or the experience, no? So, pwede kasing magbago yan, no? Kaya nakikita nyo rito, merong extrinsic at saka intrinsic na characteristics, no? May extrinsic means external, intrinsic means internal, no? So makikita nyo pag sinabing external, ito yung mga participants that they are attempting to figure out the study's purpose. On the other hand, pag intrinsic naman, the volunteers possess unique traits distinct from the general population, threatening the external validity of the experiment. Okay? An example of this, no? So kasi may kanya-kanyang role yan yung Hawthorne effect Suppose employees, they know that their management is observing the productivity. No? For 1 week, productivity increases dramatically. The question is, did the management improve the workplace? Maybe not, no? Employees simply work harder because they know that they are being watched. Diba? So, nag-i-improve yung mga employees kasi alam nila na sila ay inoobserbahan. Parang ganun yun, no? So, makikita nyo, ganyan. Kahit kami mga faculty, no? Kapag halimbawa, merong nag-announce na, uy, bibisita daw si Dean sa classroom para i-observe ka. Siyempre, magpe-prepare ka. May bisita Diba? So, ganun din yun, no? Kapag ka alam mo na you are being observed, somehow, the productivity or the, merong tawag dun parang madadagdagan yung gana mo, no? Magaganahan ka lalo, no? Ma-excite ka. Pwede rin naman na ang maging role mo ay tabahan ka, no? Ito yung apprehensive subject, no? So, pwedeng may maganda at negatibong epekto kapag ka alam mo na inoobserbahan ka. Okay? So next natin, managing the participant bias. Paano natin aalisin yung participant bias? Kanina naalis na natin yung experimental bias, no? Pwede, para maalis yung experimental bias, dalawa yung pwede natin gawin. It's either i-standardize natin, the same treatment all throughout, the same experience, the same instruction. And the other one is automation, no? Kaya mong computer ang gumawa ng lahat, no? Without human bias. Ito naman, sa slide na to, we want to manage the participant bias, no? So when blinding is impossible, researchers must actively manage the psychological environment of the subject. Ibig sabihin nito, sometimes blinding cannot be used, no? Hindi natin pwedeng gamitin yung blinding, yung single blind, double blind, tsaka partial blind. No? So ano yung pwede nating gamitin? So pwede daw tayong gumamit ng deception or preemptive. The second one is inquiry or diagnostic. Sir, masama yan deception ah. Di ba ang ibig sabihin yan ay pandaraya? No, hindi naman. Hindi naman ang ibig sabihin nito ay pandaraya. Deception siya. It comes from the word deceive, di ba? So, minsan kasi negative ang connotation natin kapag ka narinig natin yung deception or deceive, di ba? Pero ang ibig sabihin lang nito, dito sa part na to ng ating discussion, ang ibig sabihin ng deception dito, the participants receive an alternative explanation of the study. No? The purpose is not to lie unnecessarily.
Sir, nawala po yung audio. Naka-mute po yata.
Yeah. Hello? Is it okay? Can you... am I audible
Loud
na?
and clear, sir.
Okay. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much. Okay.
Audible.
As I was explaining a while ago, no? Asa na ba ako? Tungkol doon sa deception, no? So I was about to read this text from this image. Number 1, no? Deception. So in other words, in deception, we provide a credible alternative rationale for the study. It is by feeding the participant a false hypothesis, wherein the researcher redirects the demand characteristics away from the true variable of interest. So this requires strict ethical or IRB oversight. So sabi ko nga sa inyo kanina, kapag ginamit mo itong method na to, kailangan aprobado ito ng Ethics Review Committee. No? Yun ang ibig sabihin yan. Hindi siya, the purpose is not to lie, but to prevent the participants from changing the behavior. So what you're going to do here is to provide an alternative explanation of the study. Yun ang ibibigay mo sa mga participants. Number 2 is inquiry. No? After the study, tawag natin dito, diagnostic na to. No? The researcher will ask the participants, what do you think this study was about? Parang teacher, no? Pagkatapos niya mag-lecture, tatanungin niya yung mga estudyante, what did you learn from this topic? Okay? So ganun din sa experiment, no? What do you think this study was about? Unang tatanungin ng experimenter sa mga participants. Now, if the participants correctly guessed, no, their data may have been influenced by expectations. So yun yung tinatawag na inquiry through diagnostics. No? So yun yung pagkakaiba. At yun daw yung way natin to most probably eliminate the participants' bias. No? Now, in this case, this is another way um, to prevent, no, the bias and the artifacts, no. Kinokontrol natin yung mga pwedeng maka-apekto dun sa maka-influence, di ba? So another way daw is to use randomization, no? So if you remember from the last week, last 2 weeks ago, no, we studied about random selection versus the random assignment, no? Pero dapat ninyo maintindihan, this is the ultimate layered defense. Kung meron kang randomization at saka random assignment, no, this will serve two entirely distinct methodological function, no? Sabi ko nga sa inyo last time, minsan yung mga students nako-confuse nila yung kahulugan ng random selection at saka ng random assignment. But they are completely different from one another. So sa stage 1, ito yung unang layer natin, no? Meron tayong random selection. So sa random selection, sinasagot natin yung question na sino bang kasama sa study? Who joins? Who are included in the study? The purpose is to represent the entire population, no? So we get a representative sample from the total population. And every member has an equal chance of being selected. Random selection nga di ba? So hindi mo intentional na piliin yung mga representative, but randomly sinelect mo sila. Yan yung stage 1. Sa stage 2 naman, which is the random assignment, you're trying to group the participants na randomly selected doon sa stage 1, no? So, sino yung pupunta sa experimental group? Sino naman yung pupunta sa control group? So, kaya na nakikita nyo rito, after stage 2, merong pupunta sa experimental group, meron din pupunta sa control group, no? The purpose is to make the groups equivalent before the treatment. Pero yung pagpili kung saan mapupuntang grupo, random pa rin, no? Random pa rin yung assignment. So you're not intentionally choosing the assignment, no, for the groupings. No? Actually, last time, nagbigay na tayo na example niyan, no? So let's say, if I remember right, ang binigay ko rito example, we have 10,000 engineering students, no? But you only choose 200 students randomly. Out of 10,000, you randomly selected 200 students. No? And then, after that, so tapos na yun, yan yung stage 1, you randomly selected them, di ba? Stage 1 is random selection. And in stage number 2, you randomly assign those 200, you divide them into experimental group and control group. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, selection will choose the participants, while assignment distributes the participant kung anong group sila they should belong. So, yun yung ating randomization. So, nakikita nyo rito na through this layered approach or layered defense, nagiging distinct yung ating methodological function na pe-prevent natin yung influences that can affect the validity of our conclusion. Okay? So, dito ay yung mga selection natin. Yung mga selection natin dito, sabi nga selection connects the study to the real world. On the other hand, assignment protects the study from itself. So that means the random selection, if we do this, the random selection, it protects the external validity. So ibig sabihin nito, we can generalize findings to the general or to the larger population. And this means differences between groups are caused by the treatment, not by participant differences. So ito, comparison lang naman to ng random selection at saka ng random assignment. Magbigay tayo ng example. Let's say, sa research na ginagawa natin na may human participants o sabihin na natin sa engineering students, suppose only honor students volunteer. No? Mga may honor lang yung nag-volunteer. Even if the experiment is perfect, results cannot represent average students. Kasi honor students yung nag-participate eh. Di ba nilang i-represent yung average students? Eh, pinili mo mga honor students. Di ba? So, ang tawag doon, poor selection. Poor selection yun kasi ang nag-participate lang ay yung mga honor students. How can they appreciate, no? How can they represent the average students? So, makaka-affect yan sa external validity. Now, suppose participants are not randomly assigned. Hindi sila randomly assigned. One group accidentally contains all high-performing students. And the other group, syempre, hindi high-performing students. So, anumang improvement, no? It could simply reflect existing ability. No? Kasi nga, hindi randomly assigned yung mga estudyante. Pinili nila. Kaya nakikita nyo kapag may groupings, nagsama-sama yung mga malalakas. Kung tawagin yung mga malalakas na estudyante. Ibig sabihin, magagaling yun, no? Madali silang natatapos sa experiment nila. Madali silang natatapos sa kanilang mga projects. Kasi nga, nagsama-sama yung malalakas. Di ba? But on the other hand, may mga grupo na napag-iwanan, no? Halimbawa, ang mga natirang grupo, yung mga pala-absent, yung mga laging late, tsaka yung mga mahihina, natural, ang maging epekto nun, magiging purang kanilang submission. No? Yan ang ibig sabihin nun. Kaya nakikita nyo, kapag hindi randomly assigned, yung grupo, nagkakaroon talaga ng epekto. So, nakikita natin dyan yung mga differences. Okay? So dito, pag-aralan natin to. So we have two weighing scales dito, pero ang tinutukoy dito ay yung mga structural controls that manually force the equivalence when randomization cannot be guaranteed. Minsan kasi, random assignment is impossible. No? So, anong ginagawa ng mga researcher kapag imposible yung random assignment? So, ang ginagawa ng mga experimenter o ng mga researcher, they manually control important variables. And they are doing it through matching. The second one is through blocking. So, ano ba ibig sabihin ng matching? Ano ba ibig sabihin ng blocking? Yan. So, pag sinabi nating matching, the participants with similar characteristics are paired, no? No? Ito yung tinatawag natin dito ng mga confounding variable gaya ng age and gender. So, halimbawa, sama-sama ang mga gender na ganito at saka yung may age na ganito. Yan. Same age, same gender, or same GPA, same GWA. So, one member goes to the experimental group and the other one is to the control group. So, yun ang ibig sabihin ng matching. Kasi hindi mo kaya yung randomization eh. Di ba? So, ang ginawa mo, ikaw mismo yung nagmamatch by eliminating para makontrol mo yung mga variable mo. So nakita mo, yung sa loob ng klase nakita mo may mga grupong matatalino. So paghihiwa-hiwalayin mo sila, parang ganun yun. No? Sasama mo yung isang matalino dito sa grupo ito na hindi masyadong matalino. Parang ganyan. Minamatch mo yung mga confounding variable. No? And then you assign them into other groups. You manually control the important variables. Yun namang blocking, ito nasa second image, no, on the right, instead of eliminating a variable, so the researchers study it separately. Okay? Can you still see my presentation? Kasi parang nag-notify sa akin. Hello? Can you still see my presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Nakikita pa rin po.
Okay. Thank you. Sige. So we will continue. Yung blocking na tinutukoy ko rito, okay? Tinutukoy ng ating slide. So, gaya ng nabanggit ko, ini-eliminate yung variable and the researchers study it separately. So nakita niyo rito, instead of eliminating the variable, the researcher formally includes it as independent variable. So pinaghihiwalay niya talaga sa kanyang experimental design. So the variable becomes another factor in the analysis. So kumbaga, hiwalay niyang inaaral yung mga variables na yun. Example, as an engineer, you want to test two cooling systems, no? And the age of the equipment may influence the temperature. But instead of ignoring the age of the equipment, you create new machines and the other one, the old machines. Then you compare cooling systems within each group. So yun ang example natin dyan. Na pwede nating i-match or i-block through matching and through blocking so that we will have structurally controlled variables, no? Whenever the randomization is impossible to do. Okay? Now, the next is the statistical controls, no? So don't worry about the terms kung medyo may mga terms dito na medyo ngayon nyo lang narinig, no? Or hindi masyadong maliwanag sa inyo. We'll still study this in the later part of the lessons, no? Kasi statistical natin. Or siguro naririnig niyo na to sa statistics niyo. Okay? So when design controls leak, statistical controls act as the final mathematical purification system. Eto na. So minsan hindi natin mape-prevent, no? Yung mga biases, yung mga artifacts nakaka-impluwensya, pero ang sabi, no? Kahit na very careful yung planning mo and some differences are still there, no? Sabi ng ating topic sa slide na to, the final line of defense na pwede nating gamitin is the statistical control. Okay? So meron tayong tatlo dito na pwedeng gamitin. So una, si descriptive and t-test or ANOVA. So saan natin pwedeng gamitin to? Yan. So si t-test tsaka si ANOVA, ginagamit natin siya when we are comparing group averages. So, ibig sabihin, dalawang grupo, gusto mong i-compare yung average ng dalawa. Okay? And we determine whether the differences are statistically significant. Guess nyo? Okay, so, maiintindihan nyo palalo yan sa statistics. No? Pero, we are only introducing it this time just to have an example of what typical sort of statistical treatment can we apply as the final line of defense doon sa ating ginagawang study. Okay? So yan naman yung descriptive and t-test or ANOVA. Yung analysis of covariance o yung ANCOVA, saan naman siya ginagamit? No? So si ANCOVA, parang ganito yan. You adjust the scores, no? You adjust the scores based on the pre-existing differences. No? Nag-a-adjust ka ng score. Halimbawa, parang ganito yan eh. Nagpa-exam si teacher. Ang daming bumagsak. Tapos mga ilang piraso lang yung pumasa. Para bumalanse yung score, ang ginagawa ng ibang teacher, gumagawa sila ng slope. No? Hindi kasi perfectly equal yung group, no? Yung grupo ng pumasa at grupo ng mga bumagsak. Mas marami yung bumagsak kaysa para umangat yung average ng mga bumagsak. So ang gagawin ni teacher, itataas niya yung i-adjust niya yung score. So either mag-plus siya. So yun yung ginagawa niya. And this is very useful kapag ka ganun nga ang kaso na merong mga scores na mas marami yung bagsak kaysa sa ano. So that way, na-standardize siya. No? So but through ANCOVA or analysis of covariance, where you are mathematically adjusting the scores, so you are accounting for the pre-existing differences that are measured at a baseline. So nakikita nyo rito sa graph na to, no? The lines that are the points that are lying on this straight line could be the baseline. No? Any points that are lying nearest to this line could also be a measured baseline. And on the other hand, yung mga points na malayo sa baseline na to could be treated differently. So it could be adjusted. So ang tawag natin doon ay analysis of covariance. The last analysis that we can do is the partial correlation. So ano naman ibig sabihin ng partially correlated? No? Ito naman, kung saan ko ba nag-a-adjust tayo, pwede magdagdag. Sa partial correlation, we are subtracting. We are removing the influence of another variable. Nakita nyo rito, the known effect of a third variable to reveal the true relationship between the primary variables. So ginagawa natin yun para makita natin kung tatanggalin ba natin itong variable na to, ano ang epekto. So yan yung partial correlation na tinatawag. Okay? So these types of statistical analysis, ito po yung mga pwede nating gawin. No? Ito yung mga pwede nating gawin. Okay? As an example, kunyari, you are the researcher, no? And you want to study the relationship between exercise and academic performance. Ikaw yung researcher. Anong topic mo? Does exercise, yung physical exercise to ang tinutukoy ko. Does physical exercise improve the academic performance? No? So, nag-experiment ka. However, sleep o yung rest can also affect the grades. So alin ba talaga ang nakakaapekto sa academic performance? Physical exercise o rest o pagtulog o sleep? So you need to partially correlate by removing the influence of sleep. Sige na nga, tanggalin na natin yung sleep or rest. Diba? So you just want to study the effect of physical exercise to academic performance. Although maraming nakakaapekto, you're removing those things. So ang tawag natin doon ay partial correlation, wherein you want to remove the influence of sleep, for example, no? Allowing researcher to examine only the relationship between physical exercise and the academic performance. Okay? So yun yung mga pwede nating gamitin na mga statistics. Yan. So malapit na tayo matapos. No? We are, this is the last slide. This is the second to the last slide. So let's try to understand this. No? So sabi natin kanina, the goal of our topic is to understand how can we prevent being influenced, no, by artifacts and bias para magkaroon tayo ng validity sa ating conclusion. So sabi dito sa slide na to, we need to have a layered defense model. Remember, there is no single control that is perfect. But together, they create an impermeable shield. So, itong slide na to, sinasummarize niya yung buong lecture natin mula pa kanina. No? Tandaan natin, research quality does not depend on one technique. Walang single control that is perfect. Instead, we should have multiple controls that work together like layers of security. No? Sa computer concept, tawag dyan ay onion security. Alam niyo yung onion? Yung onion is yung sibuyas sa Tagalog, di ba? Layered kasi yan. Yung sibuyas pag binalatan mo, layer by layer yan. Ganon din dito. Ano? So these multiple controls, they work together, should work together like layers of security. No? So, imagine, ito ay slice of cheese. No? Di ba, itong cheese na to, may makikita kayong mga holes. No? Mapapansin nyo, itong bias at artifacts, pwedeng pumasok kasi may mga holes dito sa mga layer na to. Ano to mga layer na to? Yan yung binding and standardization, which neutralizes the humans. In plate number 2, yan yung mga random selection and assignment, wherein we are neutralizing the sample, pero pwede pa rin siyang makapasok. But in plate number 3, where we are doing the matching and the blocking, the holes now no longer line up, no? So hindi na siya makapasok dito kasi wala nang butas dito. Dito sa plate 1 tsaka sa plate 2, pwede mag-overlap, no? Yung mga slices, and yung mga hole ay nag-a-align siya kaya nakakapasok yung mga artifacts tsaka bias. No? Eh di lalo na dito. Ginamitan mo pa siya sa plate number 4 kasi ito na yung mga statistical control. Gagamitan mo siya ng statistical control na you are neutralizing the unknown mathematical leaks na pwedeng mangyari. So therefore, sa tingin nyo, makakapasok pa yung bias at saka artifacts. So therefore, to summarize our lecture, the 4 layers of protection are the following. No? So dapat mayroon kang blinding and standardization na gagawin. Second, may random selection and assignment. Third, may matching and blocking kang gagawin to neutralize extraneous variables. And number 4, you should have statistical control. And together, they create strong protection for research validity. Okay? Parang ganito yan eh, no? So siguro naman lahat tayo nakapasok na sa airport, di ba? At sa airport, meron tayong tinatawag na airport security. So paano tayo sinesecure sa airport? Lahat ng passengers, they go through ID verification. They go through baggage scanning. They go through metal detectors. Meron pang body scanners. Meron pang security interview kung sakali. So yun yung pinakamatindi. So each layer catches different threats. Ganon din ang research. No? If your design for your research has multiple layered of defense, no? You can prevent bias and artifacts from coming out. And the biggest lesson that we should learn today is this. Remember that validity is not an accident. It is engineered. Okay? So, ini-engineer pala yung validity ng research. Sabi nga dito, even the most seasoned researchers cannot foresee every potential artifact. But by integrating standardization, randomization, and statistical controls early in the design phase, we are shifting from reacting to errors to proactively engineering the truth. No? And that means validity is not something the researchers hope for or expected. No? It is something they intentionally design. So every decision that are made before data collection, they can affect the quality of the results. And a well-designed study anticipates problems before they happen. So kailangan i-combine talaga natin yung mga yan. So tandaan nyo to, guys, no? But because sooner or later, you're going to have your own research topic, and you need to incorporate all of these layers para you will come up with conclusions that are trustworthy, accurate, and valid. No? So remember the principle of an engineer. A good research is not about collecting the most data. It's not about collecting the most data. It is about collecting the right data under the right conditions. So, tandaan po natin yan. Ito yung essence ng research design. Kaya nga inaaral natin siya. No? Engineering the conditions so that the conclusions are as reliable and valid as possible. Okay? So yun po yung ating topic for today. So if you have some questions, no, so do not hesitate po to ask your questions. May tanong po ba tayo? Question po. Okay, Ma'am Samantha, no questions on my end. What about the others po?
Wala po, sir.
Wala din si MJ. Sa John Paul, wala. Wala din si Engineer Bayot. Wala din si Engineer Incomio. So, okay. What about Sir Angelo de la Cruz? Baka may
Wala
tanong
naman
po
po,
kayo.
sir.
Wala naman. Okay. So I am hoping na since wala kayong question, ay nakatulong sa inyo itong ating topic for today na diniscuss natin. So, let me just check doon sa ating... I'll be asking you to turn on your cameras later, ha? For our group photo. Pero I'll be checking first the assignments. So, hindi ko pa na-check. Pero I've seen na sa assignment 1 ay nakapag-comply naman lahat. Sa week number 2, merong isa na hindi nakapag-submit pa. Sa week 2 assignment. So, sino kaya yun? Ayun. Si Engineer Bayot, no? Wala pa siyang submission. Pwede ka pa mag-submit, sir. Comply lang tayo para hindi tayo ma-incomplete, no? So I'll be activating the third assignment, no? This is for week number 3, although we are already in week number 4. I will be activating the assignment. Okay. Sige, thank you. Sige, siguro we can turn on the cameras na and we can end the class na after the... let me just fix the screenshot. Yan, screenshot na po tayo. Yan. Okay. Isa na lang. Yun, lahat na to. Nawala yung iba. Wait. Nawala yung iba. John Paul Bautista, Sir Angelo, ayun. Incomio. Ito pa, si Sir Joseph Kennedy. Ayun, okay na. Say, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay na po. Yan. Kahit isa lang, pwede na yan. Okay. Wala kayong question, ha? I'll be activating the assignment and I'll see you next week po. So thank you very much for attending the class today and be safe po dahil sa ating weather. Thank you very much po. I'll be ending the meeting na po. Bye-bye.